Friendship is a concept that doesn't care about gender, species, or status. It doesn't depend on the circumstances. It is unconditional. Friendship either is or it isn't. It can't be bought for any amount of money. It can only be earned by loyalty and patience. The story takes place in a village in Russia. The Levitsky family has always had many animals. At the time of the story, the farms had 2 cows, a bull, 8 pigs, and rabbits. But then they got an additional member. One of the cows gave birth. The calf was adorable. He had huge eyes the color of melted chocolate, and he looked at the new world with curiosity and interest. The calf rested next to its mother while the farm owner, Irina, was cleaning the barn. Her 8-year-old daughter, Nastia, was next to her mother and looked at the little calf with delight. She admired him so much that her mother couldn't stand it and asked her daughter not to get too attached, because the family was planning on selling him when he got a bit older. Soon the family dog, Shatika, came running into the barn. They found Shatika in the street near their home. He was just a tiny puppy. Nastia begged her parents to take him in. He would have died from the cold if he stayed on the street. He grew into a large dog, infinitely loyal to his family. The cheerful and curious Shatika immediately got interested in the new addition to the farm. Seeing the calf, he began to sniff the newcomer, trying to get to know him a bit better. Nastia didn't pay attention to her mother's warning and kept petting the calf's head. She even came up with a little name for him, Montic. A few days later, the little calf had already tried going outside to spend time on the green grass. His first steps were cautious and uncertain, but the further he went, the more confident he got. His legs were getting stronger, and he was happy to run around the yard, playing with Nastia and Shatika. The trio spent all their days together. As soon as the girl sat down, the calf would instantly appear next to her, settling down and putting his head on her lap. Then Shatika would come running and sit down with them. Then they could just sit there eating the mother's delicious rolls, apples, and other treats. When the parents decided on a specific date to sell the calf, Nastia was very upset. She cried and begged her mother to change her mind and back out of the deal, but the woman was adamant. When the day of the sale came, Nastia wasn't herself. The mere thought that Montic would be taken away and she would never see him again brought the girl to tears. Shatika couldn't understand what was going on, so he just followed the girl. When the buyers came, Nastia looked at them, hoping that maybe they wouldn't like Montic, but they did like the calf, and even made a comment about him being a good product. Hearing this, Nastia burst into tears. Montic was her friend, and not just some product for sale and investment opportunity. The dog joined Nastia and began to howl. His head raised high. Everyone was perplexed. They didn't know what to do. The girl was crying, the dog was howling, and the cat was looking at them with eyes full of sadness, as if it was about to start crying too. The buyers talked it over and told the Levitskys that they would never be able to forgive themselves if they took the calf away, because the eyes of the 3 friends would follow them everywhere. The mother felt very uncomfortable in this situation. She kept apologizing and asked the buyers to understand that it wasn't intentional. Still, the buyers turned out to be decent and kind people, so they simply said goodbye and left. Montic stayed on the farm. They all had fun together all day while the girl's parents simply looked at them and smiled. They almost made a mistake and deprived their daughter of this wonderful feeling of true friendship and almost broke her faith in people. Since Montic spent so much time with Nastia and Shatika, it couldn't but affect his behavior. The ungulate animal began to behave differently from his relatives. He turned into more of a dog. His favorite pastime was ball games and long walks in the fields. He even treated the girl like a dog would, and he was incredibly loyal. On one of their walks, Nastia went a bit further into the forest than she usually does, so she and her pets made their way to a river. It was wonderful there. A cool breeze swayed the thick grass. Shatika was busy catching nimble grasshoppers and chasing butterflies. Montic lay down in the grass and dozed off, and the girl was weaving a wreath of daisies and cornflowers and watched the clouds run quickly across the sky. The perfect day was interrupted by the sounds of an approaching group of boys. They were messing around and making jokes along the way. Seeing the defenseless girl, they were delighted. They saw her as an object for their entertainment. They took her straw hat and began to throw it over to each other, forcing the girl to run between them. It was fun for the boys, but Nastia could hardly hold back her tears because her mother gave her that hat, and she really liked it. This didn't stop the boys, and they began to invent offensive nicknames for the girl. But they couldn't have known that the faithful dog was already rushing to the girl's aid, and that Montic had woken up and was getting up from the thick grass, tilting his head angrily. The calf had already grown rather significant, and he began to push the offenders with his strong head. It was a very unpleasant experience for the boys. Sharika grabbed the offender's pants. The boys didn't expect the girl to have so many defenders, and rushed to flee the scene. The dog saw them off with loud barking. Upon returning home, Nastia told her parents what had happened. They got very worried, but at the same time, they were glad that their daughter had such loyal and devoted friends.